Hello and welcome to the Inside Stylists podcast, where we talk all about interiors, from interviews with interior stylists, writers and the up-and-coming interiors brands we all want to hear about and feature. There's so much to talk about. I'm your host, Emma Morton-Turner. Enjoy the show. Wildflower magazine is a new publication all about the cultural and creative heart of the Chilterns. It's bursting with everything from lifestyle and interior features, beautiful gardens, luxury travel, the local food and drink scene, fashion and wellness. If you've never been to the Chilterns, let me tell you, it's beautiful. I can't tell you, the houses I've just seen driving through here are amazing. Wildflower magazine showcases all of that gorgeousness. Today's guest is going to be sharing all about launching the magazine, which has just been out not long actually. I'm going to ask you in a minute what it takes and where she's headed. I'm delighted to introduce the editor and publishing director of Wildflower magazine, Zoe Levey. Hi Zoe.
Hello. Hi.
We haven't been sitting talking for about 3 hours already, have we? Not at all.
Lots to catch up on.
We're in Wildflower headquarters, sitting in the sun actually. We're doing quite well, aren't we? It's a lovely day. So, we have known each other quite a while. Do you want to say where we met?
We met, over 10 years ago, working at Woman and Home magazine, where you were the
home editor. I was the home editor then,
editor, and I was the head of marketing. And I think we bonded because we shared quite a lot of clients and PRs that we had to talk to and work with. And it was a great time, I think, and it's nice to be back in touch with you after all this time.
It is. It feels like we've never been apart.
Exactly. I know.
We used to meet for coffee and then talk through the plans of things that were going to be put on offer in the magazine, and I'd be given a really random selection. Sometimes it started off just the interiors products, like the bedding that was going to be on offer or a side table, and then it was like there was a lot of extra stuff. There was griddles and there was handbags. I remember I managed to acquire a handbag from you one time.
Oh yes,
yeah. So it was kind of nice. We'd see each other most months, wouldn't we?
Exactly, yeah.
So yeah.
And I think one of your greatest coups was probably getting Kylie Minogue and her bedding range.
Yes, do you remember
on the cover of the magazine?
Yes, and
which was amazing.
We met her at she did a really big launch event, and we met her, and she's tiny.
Yeah.
I mean, she's tiny, but she's proper tiny. But she was wearing this dress that was all beads, so she was tiny and sparkly.
Yeah.
God, I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, like a fairy. But what a coup.
Yeah,
Kylie on the cover.
That was huge. Yeah. Absolutely. So tell me about your background in magazines, because actually you left Woman and Home just before I did, but you've had a lot of experience with a lot of fantastic titles. Do you want to maybe talk us through how you've got from, let's say, from Woman and Home to becoming launching your own magazine?
Well, I think I think magazine to me it actually goes, slightly further back than that. I mean, I always had a thing about magazines. I think a lot of people like us did. People who go into the industry, don't they? I think a lot of people, from the age of kind of, 14, 15 were sort of obsessed with, fashion titles. And, I used to love all those magazines like Elle and Vogue. And I used to collect, American versions and French versions.
Yeah.
And, whatever I could get my hands on. And I guess, we were very lucky growing up in that age of, the supermodels and George Michael. And it was just, Gianni Versace. And it was just a really cool thing. And I suppose at that time, I didn't even realise that was really a proper job. I sort of had a secret desire to always go and do it and work in magazines. But I never really knew that was a proper job. So, I worked hard all through school and went to university and did all that kind of stuff. And ended up working in advertising in London when I first left university. And after a couple of years of doing that, I just thought, gosh, this isn't really feeding my soul. And I saw an advert for a job at Harper's and Queen, as it was then. They had a new editor called Lucy Yeomans, who's now the editor of Porter magazine, and she's just, iconic and amazing. And I was just very lucky to have met some really inspirational people during the interview process, and was very lucky to get the job. And so I started off selling promotions, so advertorials, to all the luxury travel clients for Harper's and Queen, which was not a bad place to start, to be honest, and very spoiling, but incredibly hard work. And I think that a lot of people who want to go into magazines, they think it's all quite lovely and fluffy, and it's actually not. It's really hard work, and there's a lot of pressure. So I was very lucky though to have that great start, and then from there, being part of what was then Nat Mags, which is now obviously Hearst, I moved on to Country Living. And very quickly realised that I wanted to do more than perhaps just selling advertorial. So I went and ran the Country Living fairs for 5 years. And that was a really amazing experience. I think having seen how magazines could be become brands, that was the buzzword. This is sort of 15 years ago now, and that's what all the magazine companies were trying to do. They were trying to build these magazine brands and expand them into either physical proposition or product lines, that sort of thing. Basically trying to supplement their own income, I guess, and moved away just from the pages of the magazine. So I ran the country living fairs, and then I went to Vanity Fair, and then I came to Woman and Home, and I worked at Look magazine and She magazine, if we all remember that one.
Yes, I remember She.
And I did a lot of different things, but basically around the sort of brand extensions work, lots of marketing for the magazines and brand building, and then moved into the publishing side of things from there. So most recently I was at House and Garden at Condé Nast for a couple of years before then setting up on my own at Wildflower.
Why Wildflower? Had you always dreamed of having your own magazine?
I think I've always dreamt of running my own business. I think I was really inspired, and where it really became clear for me was when I was working at Country Living all those years ago and running the shows, because I was working with a lot of small companies and choosing the companies who were going to be coming and exhibiting with us. And of course you meet all sorts of lovely people who very often go on to do extraordinary things. Some of the companies we started working with, Mary Berry, for example, started off selling her salad sauces in the Country Living Pavilion.
Wow.
And look at her now. And so, there's all these stories of these inspiring people, and I think I always had that sort of itch that needed to be scratched with setting up my own company. And so I was very lucky. My children are still very small. They're only 5 and 9. And I was commuting into London every day, and I had a very pressurised job, and I was doing lots of international travel, looking after lots of international clients for the magazine. And it just got to the stage where I thought, actually, if I don't do it now, I'm never really going to do it. And I would sort of encourage anybody really who wants to set up their own business, don't leave it too late. It is an amazing and extraordinary experience.
A lot harder than people might think. Take a bit longer than
it really is.
From personal experience.
Yeah, but I think that what's interesting is that sometimes the things that you think are going to be easy are not, and the things you think are going to be really difficult, Oh
my God, yes. Yeah, completely understand where you're coming from there. So how did you literally get it going? What did you just do a business plan and then hire people and just put it out? Because it's a big undertaking to set up a magazine.
I spent quite a bit of time thinking about it, and I'd say to anyone who wants to set up their own company, don't underestimate that amount of time that you just need to spend mulling things over and really thinking about. It's not necessarily the detail of it, but it's just really the right direction for your company and the right direction for your business, and is this the right thing to do? So I spent a lot of time really thinking about it, having a look at obviously the marketplace. I did lots of research then into the demographic in Buckinghamshire, but a lot of what fed the origin of the magazine was really just gut instinct, I think, and also just using my eyes and ears and seeing what is around. So I'm very lucky that where we live in the Chilterns, there are a lot of affluent families, lots of sort of wealthy empty nesters who settled here. The children have grown up and moved away, and they've never quite left. And there's a whole I guess wherever you have a sort of affluent audience, if you like, you're always going to get entertainment, and there's the arts, and there's lots of things for them to be doing. So of course there are a lot of other magazines in this area, but there isn't really anything like Wildflower that's sort of servicing that and recognising that affluent family audience and these sort of wealthy empty nesters. So it was a lot of what I saw at places like the school gates, for example, or just talking to people in the village and my neighbours. And that sort of fed the origin of the magazine, and that sort of gave me my initial, the initial idea for the magazine.
So anyone who hasn't seen it, who is it aimed at?
Well, certainly readers who are predominantly female, over 40. They tend to have children, and as I say, either the children are still living at home, or the children have left and the parents have stayed in the area. We're very lucky that because of the proximity of the Chilterns to London, We have easy access to London, which means that quite a lot of our readers are still very well informed. They're not disconnected from London. One or other of the partners is still probably going into London daily. Exactly. So either one or both parents will be working most likely in town, and so it's sort of finding a balance really between servicing them with lovely stories from the local area, but also then recognising that London is just on our doorstep too.
It's very inspirational. There's lots of things in there that you do want to go to the events that are listed, and you do want to look at the fashions and buy the very nice red coat I just saw. So where did Wildflower name come from?
Well, a lot of people ask me this, and I think what it is, it's a sensibility. And I guess originally I thought it might be a place that you might imagine, just somewhere really lovely. And somewhere
like escapism almost.
Yeah, somewhere that's really calm and somewhere that's really pretty. But it could also be a person. You can almost imagine yourself or a person being a wildflower.
Yeah.
So having that sense of freedom and that sense of wanting to explore and experience life, and I just thought it conjured up something lovely in people's imagination that would be a lovely place to go and a lovely place to visit.
Yeah, that's lovely. Very nice. The covers are always really beautiful. They've got the last, so it's quarterly, isn't it?
It's quarterly,
yeah. And the last one was just before Christmas, so it's got a beautiful wreath, but it's not like a traditional green wreath. It's got lots of lovely, lovely colours on. And the one before, I'm just grabbing it here, that's an illustration, isn't it?
It's a piece of art, actually.
It's a piece of art.
Yeah,
Oh.
And the artist is called Jane Hammond, and she is in her 60s. She lives in New York. She's very cool, and she sort of, for me, I think, represented, a Wildflower reader. We don't want to put an age necessarily onto our readers. I mean, they are 40 plus.
Yeah.
But it's more of a sensibility rather than pigeonholing people into a particular age bracket, for example. In terms of the way that the magazine looks and feels, we've invested very heavily actually in the paper. So the magazine is printed on a matte paper,
it's a really thick quality paper. It's not flimsy. It's
exactly
got a real weight to it.
It's 100 GSM and it's a bespoke size, so it's smaller than your traditional kind of A4 magazines, and slightly bigger than a sort of traditional handbag size, if you like. But that's really important because it's all about connectedness. So we want readers to feel connected to the magazine with their fingers even. And it's going back to that old experience of sitting down with something that's really beautiful to look at and really beautiful to hold. So I hand the magazine to people and they start stroking the cover, for example, which for me is lovely. But that's the biggest compliment for me, because I think it sort of justifies, the expense of, and the investment of paying for this expensive paper. But it's just, we want people to
immediately evokes the feeling that you want to get across.
Exactly. Yeah.
And also, because of the way it looks, it's like, it doesn't feel like a magazine, it feels like a book. So you keep it and you put it on your shelf, and then when you've got them in a little row, they look all smart on the row, don't they? It's like, it's not something you put in your recycle, you've got a pile of magazines and then you bin them after 3 months sort of thing.
Exactly.
It's got that gorgeousness about it. It's got that book feel to it that you just keep it.
I definitely want people to feel that Wildflower is a magazine that they can keep going back to time and time again. And again, I've had people sort of say to me that they, they love just revisiting the issues. So the issues are, they come out seasonally. So it's quarterly is the technical term, but I guess the seasonality of it is very, very important to us. So, very strongly themed spring, summer, autumn, winter, and, with the visuals and with the content, we try and really bring that out.
Yeah.
But also those kind of emotions that you feel during those seasons. So, for example, the spring issue that we're working on at the moment will be full of creativity and inspiration, because that's how people feel in spring. Yeah. It's wanting to try something new, for example, and really just wanting to get out there in the world and explore. So that's very important. So, for example, the summer issue will be themed around family and family fun. And again, it's just, it's the time for relaxing and just taking time off work and enjoying your summer holiday. So that seasonality is really, really key for us.
That's nice. Really nice. What was the hardest thing in setting it up?
I think the hardest thing was getting used to a working process and not having the normal support systems that you would rely on in order to get the business actually functioning.
Yeah.
And that's things like I can't get my computer to work.
I was just going to say, it's tech support, isn't it? It's always
where
tech
is
support.
the IT guy? It's things like, post. I need to post some magazines to clients and to people and to PRs, for example. How do I get, oh my gosh, I've got to go to the post office, and that takes time out of my day. And it's those sort of practical things that I think really threw me. The actual registering the company name was surprisingly easy. It takes about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But it's all those other bits and pieces that go around it. And I think then getting used to and adjusting to just remote working, which is obviously the future. It's great, but I do work with a series of people, or a number of people who are, we're all in different places. And so it's finding a system that works effectively. And of course, now we've got it nailed, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was every day you're coming against a different challenge, and you're having to go through all of that before you even start getting to the creative side of things, which is obviously the really fun bit.
And you're not doing this on your own, obviously, because it's quite a big production. So how do you manage your team? Or who are your team?
Who are my team? Well, my art director is a lady called Sam Brownstein, and she, like myself, came from Condé Nast.
I was looking at her Instagram account last night.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Yes, and she is incredibly talented, and it has been an absolute dream working with her. And we get on incredibly well. We just seem to hit it off, and I think that, anyone who's worked in the sort of creative business, you always know that there are certain people that you connect with, and there's certain partners, and whether or not that's a stylist working with a photographer, for example, or like myself, an editor working with an art director, you just have to have that shared same vision. And I'm just very lucky with Sam that we just sort of connect, and we just get it.
And then do you hire freelancers around getting different features, because you do fashion and you do gardens and homes and all the different elements, events and stuff. Do you mainly outsource people?
Yes. So I have a team of freelancers who, depending on the content, depending on the feature, I will commission it out to either a writer or a stylist, or whoever's most relevant for the feature.
Yeah. So tell me about the first time you did your Ed's letter. Was that really hard?
It was really hard because you're putting yourself out there.
Yeah, and you're setting the tone for the whole magazine straight away.
Exactly. And so it was really important to me to get across the main message of Wildflower and why we had sort of done it. And it's very much about taking time out of your day to relax and just breathe, and maybe move away from your digital screens.
Yeah.
And, we don't really take enough time out to look after ourselves these days. We're all so busy. There's so many things that we're juggling. There's a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety in our lives. And I think it's really, what magazines are about. They're giving people an opportunity to just take time away for themselves. I think that's really important. So, the visuals in the magazine are really beautiful. The paper quality is beautiful. It's really tactile. And, you really want to just go and find somewhere quiet to go and just sit and switch your brain off and just immerse yourself in somewhere lovely. And that's really what it was all about. That's if I could achieve anything with our magazine, that's really what it would be. Obviously we're on Instagram.
Of course.
So everyone's on their phones, but we shouldn't be on our phones, I think, all the time. I think it's quite nice to be able to come away and
switch off from it.
Exactly.
I'm just going to mention that your headshot on the Ed's letter is fabulous.
Thank you.
The colour and the flowers, and it's really bright and happy. And
it's all down to Katie Spicer, our photographer, who
Katie,
is amazing. Yes, exactly.
The other thing I wanted to talk about was the magazine industry at the moment it's very interesting where it's all at the moment, and there are a lot of reductions in magazines. There are less titles than there ever were before mainstream, but independent titles are on the up, and they are being sought after, sort of thing. So it's quite a scary time to launch a new magazine, but I think you've seen you've had a really positive response to it, haven't you?
I've had a really amazing response to it, actually, and I think there were quite a few people who sort of sucked their teeth a little bit. Gosh, you're launching a new magazine, gosh, that's terribly brave. But actually, I think if you connect with an audience and there is a gap in the market, then why not?
Yeah.
You know, as I say, I think people do need to take time away from their screens, and they do need to take time out of their day. But I think that people are looking for more interesting, more niche content that services their needs perhaps in a slightly more clever way. I think with some of the independent magazines, there's a lot more freedom. So a lot more creativity coming through.
Yeah.
And so people really are just being a bit more bold with what they're publishing. I think a lot of the big mainstream titles have got themselves in a bit of a pickle, to be honest, because actually they've become formulaic, and because of their declining sales, I can understand there's a lot of nervousness about the content that they're publishing. So I think they're trying to be very safe with what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I think that actually consumers, it's not really doing them any favours. I think consumers are finding that almost a bit of a turn off, because it's the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, we're all looking for, you know, interesting and different,
inspiration.
Yeah, exactly. You know, we can find that anywhere these days, you know, because we have access to content online and on our phones and wherever. So I think it's an interesting time for magazines, and I think that the mainstream magazines are certainly, you know, obviously going through a really tricky time, but great opportunity, I suppose, for the independent magazines to be more creative and be very bold with what we're doing.
Yeah, and there are so many of them out there, like you say, that are very niche and doing very well. So it's really a positive step forward towards having some downtime, switching your phones off 5 minutes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And moving away, I think, from you know, throwaway titles.
Yes.
You know, the fact that people actually, you know, are happy to pay a decent cover price for good quality content, I think is really important.
Yeah.
And the fact that people, you know, hopefully people will hang on to their
I was gonna
copy
say,
of the
they'll
magazine.
keep it. Yeah.
And
They just
this
will.
is a good thing for the magazine industry.
Yeah,
You know.
exactly. Long may it continue. So where is Wildflower sold? Because it's based around this area in the Chilterns, but it's kind of expanding a little, isn't it? So where is it sold?
So Wildflower magazine is sold in throughout the Chilterns, in WH Smith's and in independent hand-picked outlets, and they could be gorgeous little farm shops or independent boutiques or interior shops. And we put together a really nice list actually of places that we wanted to be seen, and obviously test sales at the very beginning. And we also have a presence in all of the luxury hotels in the area, so places like Cliveden and Le Manoir and the Grove, Stoke Park, which is really important for us. I think just being seen in that sort of environment is really lovely. But in terms of the geography of where we're distributed, we go everywhere from kind of London all through the Chilterns, so Buckinghamshire, Oxfordshire, and then expanding up into the Cotswolds. And obviously the future for the magazine really in terms of its distribution is to be reaching more of these lovely affluent areas where there are nice smart people who really deserve a beautiful magazine to look at.
Lovely. So what are you working on at the moment?
So at the moment we're working on the spring issue and obviously looking ahead to summer. The spring issue, as I said earlier, is all about creativity and it's all about inspiration. It's published just before Easter, so working on a really nice big shoot at the moment, which is really exciting. So I think having original content is really important for us.
Absolutely.
And so it's brilliant actually working on all these lovely shoots, because actually a chance to sort of indulge our own creativity.
You have complete control as well.
Yeah, and I think it's really important. You know, there are so many beautiful images out there, but I think, you know, our take on it and presenting that to the world is really important, and also for the reader, because obviously they're buying the magazine, so to be able to give them fresh new content that they haven't seen anywhere else is really important. So we've got a big shoot coming up next week.
Do you go on the shoots?
I do.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Because why wouldn't you?
Definitely.
When you book a shoot and you have stylists and writers and whoever else involved in the shoot, the editor doesn't always get to go, because this is a smaller production. You kind of get to have that fun. And do you shoot around here then, or do you need to go?
We do.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's not like you have to go into London for studio spaces. I'm sure there's loads of amazing houses around here that are location houses anyway.
Yeah, we're very lucky, and we're sort of spoilt for choice. But I have to say, we did the first shoot for the last issue, and it was quite an emotional experience for me. I mean, at one point we had 20 people there.
Really?
Because we had a team of chefs from Bonnie May, who is our sort of catering partner, and we had our amazing photographer Katie Spicer there, and we had just a whole bunch of assistants and people helping, and it was actually really amazing to see, you know, that many people working on our own shoot. You know, that for me was it was a really special moment, actually, just to see it all coming together. And the florists were amazing.
Yeah, the flowers were incredible.
Gorgeous company called Foxglove Studio, based in Marlow, who were incredible, very talented. And, you know, just to see everybody working together for the same goal is just really magical, you know.
Yeah.
It was lovely.
Yeah, I was looking at the cocktails in the winter issue. Oh my God, they are just beautiful. And actually, they're on your Instagram. I was like, they look absolutely amazing. All pink and pretty, but beautifully shot. The shots are really lovely.
Unfortunately, we didn't get to try them on the day, though, because
most of us were...
not...
Had they been sitting around a little while?
No, we were all driving because we wanted to go do the school run.
Did you do your shoot within the school day?
Yes.
That's so impressive.
Yes, because otherwise we didn't want the kids all running around.
Do you work within the school day then?
Yes.
You do?
I do.
You run a magazine within the school day?
Yep.
It's very impressive. What's a typical day like? Is there such a thing as a
typical
day?
The morning, I'm definitely a morning person, and I really love the morning. Just that feeling of getting the household up and running, getting the kids dropped off, and I come back from the school run. I'm so glad and I'm so grateful that I can actually do that.
Yeah.
You know, when I was working in London, that was really, really hard for me. But to be, you know, a part of my kid's life is also really important. That's one of the key reasons I set up the business, was that I could still do that kind of thing. But then I love also then coming back to my office, which is based in my house, my little cottage in the old town in Amersham. And I love just getting on the phone and talking to all our contributors and all the people that I've met. I've met some really just fascinating people, you know, since I've been doing this. It's been amazing.
Yeah, that's a bit like doing this podcast. You kind of meet people at launches and things. So if someone has a new range of products out for homewares, you might meet them at a launch. But when you sit down and talk to them in the podcast, you get to know a little bit deeper into their lives. And I always come away with a real like warm, smiley glow afterwards. And it's one of the highlights of what I do for Inside Stylists now, because you connect with people, don't you? And it sounds like that's the same thing for you.
And also the introductions, because of course you meet one interesting person and they say, oh gosh, well, have you heard about this person?
Exactly.
I know somebody who's doing something really interesting, and then you're kind of off. It's that kind of investigating and finding out.
Yeah.
But then, you know, I love the sort of pace of my day, and I think, you know, the contrast between working from home, working for yourself, and working for a big magazine publishing company, say in London, is that, you know, I'm really in control of my day, and I really like that. So, you know, if I feel like going and making a green juice, which I've seriously got into since I've given up work in London, you know, I can go and do that sort of 11 o'clock in the morning. And, you know, if I feel at lunchtime I need to go out for a run or need to go out for a walk and get some fresh air, I can easily go and do that. I like being in control of my day.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it's really important that I'm also there for the children in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have that sort of control. It's not green juice, is there cake in the kitchen? I'm going to go and eat the cake. So when the kids are home, you spend time with them.
Yes.
Do you work in the evenings? Do you have to kind of tidy up a few loose ends?
Sometimes,
I find I'm always trying not to be on my phone or my computer when the kids get home. And my kids are 12 and 15, so they're much older than yours, and spend most of the time on their computers.
Yeah.
But it's like, I've just got to make a phone call. I've just got to do an email sort of thing. And it's quite hard to... It's that whole people expect you to be at your desk until 6 o'clock, but there's like 3 hours where the kids are home before they go off to do their own thing.
I make it very clear to my team and to our contributors and freelancers that when we are working on the magazine and we're actually, you know, putting the pages through production, that there will be days that I have to go and do the school run. I mean, obviously I do get some support in if we absolutely need it, but I've been very lucky so far that I've been able to sort of do both. But yeah, you're right. I think, you know, having that discipline to say, okay, actually now it's the kids' homework time, you know, that takes quite a bit of discipline. Moving my office space away from our little hallway, which is where I first started out optimistically, into my own room has been much easier, because I think having that space now, it means that I actually have to come in here.
I was just going to say, you can shut the door on it and close the door on your office.
Exactly.
And then you're in your house. You're not in your office.
Yeah. And that's made life a lot easier, sort of separating work and home life, which I think is really important.
Yeah. I think I might play this back to my husband and say that summer house in the garden that we've planned for many years. This is Zoe says.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I should share your details. So wildflowerpress.co.uk is the website. And of course you're on Instagram, which is Wildflower Magazine, and you can see lots of beautiful flowers there. can people just contact you through the website or drop you an email, or what's the best way for people
Email
to
at the moment
contact you?
is the best way to contact us. So you can either contact me on zoe.levey@wildflowerpress.co.uk or at hello@wildflowerpress.co.uk. Our website is actually being relaunched in March,
exciting.
which is very exciting.
Which is when this is coming out, so that's perfect timing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So at the moment we have more of a holding page, and then March the proper website will launch.
Yeah.
But of course we'll be looking for new content and contributors for that.
Do you want people to send ideas over?
That'd be fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll put all this in the show notes, so anyone who's driving or running, as I always say, you'll just go over to insidestylist.com, and all the contact details will be there. So if you want to drop Zoe a line, you can do that easily. So my last question is always, what's next? So other than the spring issue, have you got big goals for Wildflower that you can share that are secret?
Secret plans.
There's always secret squirrels going on.
The response to the magazine has actually been amazing, and I think it's sort of taken us by surprise, if I'm really honest. I think when we first launched, it was a case of, I've got this idea for a magazine, let's kind of see how we go. And I think we've been very lucky. I mean, you and I were talking earlier on about, how independent magazines are now becoming successful, and there's a higher demand for them. And certainly, I think the kind of reader that we are after, there are pockets of them around the country, and so certainly we will be looking to expand the brand, the Wildflower brand, and getting ourselves a live presence at shows and events, for example, will be something that we're looking at. I think we've connected as a magazine with an audience that maybe has been previously untapped by any one individual publication. And I think that's a really great opportunity for us.
You've got a real niche.
And the response, as I say, has been amazing. I mean, in terms of the visuals and the paper that we're using, and just the kind of gentle, calm environment that we're sort of presenting. I think people really need that these days. They need a bit of downtime in their lives. I think it's really important that they take time out just to have a cup of coffee and sit down and enjoy a good read. And hopefully that's what we're doing.
I think we definitely are. Definitely.
That's hopefully the future.
Brilliant. Well, Zoe, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was the shortest podcast that I've messed up all the way through, with the longest sit and chat before we got recorded. It's been really lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Inside Stylist podcast. You'll find all the details from today's show over on the website insidestylist.com. If you enjoyed the show, I'd love it if you would go over to iTunes and rate and review it. It's the best way to help other people find the show, and I would really appreciate it. Until next time, bye for now.